El Capitan. I'm using a Korg keyboard. I'm using a program called Chord. And I got Borg on my mind. I don't know. What is up with today?
Good evening, everyone. You're in the right place at the right time. Blasting out of the East Coast like a ray screaming across the land and into your town and into your home, slamming into your Mac like a supercharged DeLorean running on plutonium. Greetings from an undisclosed location. This is Logic Pro Hacks.
Alright, so hey, this is Brian from Logic Pro Hacks. How's it going? Well, I haven't done a video in a while on music design, so I figured I'd do something today. It's about 11:40 at night, and this is when usually I do my best work. How I do my sampling in Logic Pro. I made this cool pluck. I sampled from another keyboard, a Korg Karma, I think. Something like that. It's pretty good. Sounds really cool. And let's put a limiter on it so we don't peek out here. There we go. Cool. So I built this from just some samples, and I'll show you how I did it. You can see that I've sampled from starting from C1, and I went all the way up to C5. The question is asked, when you sample, what BPM do you use? What notes do you use? The other question is asked, how do you rename the notes? A lot of times you go in and you have all these things. Well, I'm going to show you how to do all this stuff. And it's going to be relatively easy. That being said, let me forewarn you. If you're not familiar with music design and sampling, you don't have a background in it, I'm going to go into some advanced stuff, but at the same time, I'm trying to explain something if you're a basic user. So let's take it one step at a time here. And I'll put in some nice little goodies in here. Some free samples, but they'll be hidden. Links will be hidden. Because you just got to watch this video all the way through to find them. So that way, you'll get something cool. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to sample this keyboard right here. So let's go ahead and just mute this guy for a second. Let's go ahead and open up an audio channel where this guy is located at. I believe he is on this channel, which is 9 and 10. So let's go ahead. I am using an Alesis Firewire multi-mix, and it has 16 channels. Out of those 16 channels, and in Logic, it's a bug. I'm not sure if it's a bug or if it's a design flaw in the Alesis multi-mix, but it should go up to 15 and 16, but the 15 and 16 do not show up as extra channels, so which is kind of weird. It works, and it's good enough. So we got it on 9 and 10. Let's go ahead and create it right here, and you can press the R to hear, or I just press them both, and I'll be able to hear something. And this is the keyboard playing right now. It's like a cool saw sound. I like it. So the first thing I want to do is, it has reverb in it. So I want to disable the reverb before I sample it. So what I usually do on a Korg Karma, let's go ahead. What we want to do is make sure you're in program mode, because we are in program mode, because that's the sound we're editing. And all you have to do is just hit menu, and then you just go down here and just hit your little arrow keys. Go sideways. Go down here and the master effects, and then hit open. It should open it up. And then what we want to do, God, I can't see crap in here. And there's the delay, so we're going to go ahead and turn the delay off. Just highlight the on button with the little cursor on right here. I'm pointing this. I'm using this button right here. And then just hit the wheel. Turn it off. This little wheel, jog wheel. There we go, until it says off. That kind of sucks, because you got to go in here and you got to edit all that stuff. I want to be able to do it from the screen, so I'm going to show you how I do it from the screen. Snap it up, clap it up, get everything all in sync. How do we edit this stuff? With ease. So I bought this program. Let me just show you. All right, yay, there we are. Karma Edit Pro. It's from a group called Sound Tower. Great little company. They make some fantastic stuff to interface with keyboards. They do a lot of different keyboards. I've bought them for Alesis Quadra Synth, and it works great with that. It's a different program, and then I got one for my Karma. And how it works, you just open it up, and you got to make sure you connect to your MIDI, because right now I have my Karma keyboard connected to my audio box. And then also at the same time, I have a different MIDI in, which is, I told you this is going to get advanced, but I'm just going to lightly go over it just so that you know what I'm doing. But, you know, if you ask questions, I'll make another video on how you do it. But this is more how to edit functions, and this is how I do it on the Karma. So the Asus Q500A, that is a network, MIDI network controller. And I'm using a program called RTP MIDI. And you can see that I have a session, which is built out. We'll open up the MIDI utility right here. And go into network. You can see that I have a Karma 1 is the session that I created. Just hit the little plus mark, you create a session. And I just make sure that this is all the same. I change my port number to 5005, make sure the port matches, and then this is in there. Now look at this. On my keyboard, I made sure that my routings here are going back and forth. Because what it really matters is what you want is you want your keyboard going this direction. You could have it go back out, but I didn't really care about that part. This is probably the most upsetting, messed up piece of crap utility that I've ever messed with. It used to work really cool in lower versions like Mavericks and Snow Leopard. But since the release of El Capitan, they have really screwed things up. And you'll notice that my interface is a little bit different than a normal El Capitan MIDI Studio interface, or this thing. This is a little side tip here. The utilities window here, and I'll show you what I did. You'll see in here, I actually have two audio MIDI setup programs. This one is the normal one, the one that just doesn't work worth a crap, and it's from standard install from El Capitan. And it's what happens is when you try to use the network and you go in there and you make a change and you close it out, the whole program will crash and it won't save those changes. And so it basically renders your networking over MIDI useless. So in order to fix it, I had to hack it to fix it. What the F? You know, it's it boggles my mind. You know, Apple pays these engineers to design software, and I have to hack it up to fix their mess. Go figure. So how I did it is I copied over. It's a really simple fix too. Copied over from, I actually have an older hard drive that I had Mavericks installed on, and I just went in to the applications and found the audio, that utility from Mavericks install, and I just copied it over here. Now, it's not going to let you replace it because the core files are protected, but it did let me copy it in here, and I just changed the name to setup 2. And then when I want to change my network settings, I just open this guy up, and double click on open it up. There it is, and it opens up right here. It looks like this. I'm not going to open up the other one because it'll crash my whole system. You just double click on this, and you're able to save your system settings. And it works fine. And it actually picks up your preferences from if you did some changes in the other MIDI utility. So that being said, what a cluster F. You know, I mean, geez. It took me a while to figure it out that, wow, El Capitan just sucks. But I can't use Logic, the newest and latest greatest of Logic, unless I have El Capitan. So I'm held hostage by the system of Apple. I hate Apple. I really do. I mean, I like Logic. I mean, I've been a fan of Logic when they first came out on PC. And then Apple bought them out. So, forced to use Apple. You know, you ever notice that when, I know this is sidetrack here, but you ever go to like the Apple forums on like different things, like you have a question or you search something, performance issues or something, and you go on there and you see these Apple people that are helping, you know, moderators or supposedly, and they have like these point values and they're supposedly really good. They're assholes. They're just assholes. You go on there and you ask a question, and they suddenly just assume that you're wrong for asking the question, and they give this attitude like, here, just read the manual attitude. You know, you didn't do enough research, and you're just stupid. Apple forum people, I'm telling you, man. Anyways, moving on. So as we got this part fixed, oh my gosh. Yeah, it enables me to interface with RTP MIDI, and you can see it comes up here. And I have other videos I'll link in here about how to set up RTP MIDI and how that works. But right now, this is just more of, I just wanted to show you this part and how I have it connected into this computer. This is a Windows 7 laptop that I have next to my thing over here. And in that laptop, I have this program running because this is a Windows only program. So I've done this mishmash of networking and MIDI and all that, so that way I can have control my keyboard right here from the computer. And this is how I'm doing it. And the name of this program, let's go ahead and just open up a window. I want to show you this. This is really cool. Sound Tower. There we go. Tower. The Tower of Sound. Yes. And in here, yeah, you can see all my bookmarks. Yeah, you can see what I'm doing. I'm hacking you up. That's what I'm doing. All right, so these guys are really cool. Great to deal with. So they have all this cool stuff for various keyboards, and I just go to, you know, Korg, Borg. Yeah. We are. Resistance is futile. And in here, there's one, Karma Edit Pro. This is the one I got. Now, I got the one that was for that has the MOS board, because they have two different versions. See if I can find it here. I think it's secure order. Here it is. They have different versions. You got the Triton. This is the one with Moss. It was like a little bit more expensive, like $20 more, but it's so worth it because I can edit my Moss functions and all that. So really, really nice. The demo doesn't work too well. I mean, it gives you a sense of how to connect, but once you connect, you can't really do anything. You can't edit. You can't really do anything. It just sucks. So just buy it. It's really good. The shell of the program, the GUI interface looks like it's, 20 years old. Well, the keyboard is. The keyboard's like over 10 years old. So, this is when that program was probably first designed. But anyways, good program. Great for controlling. It works really nice. It's better than that other one. What's that other one out there? SoundQuest. That's that other one. SoundQuest. There's a bug with SoundQuest with the Korg. Especially the Korg Karma. It does not interface. You get into issues where it just chokes up real bad. So don't use SoundQuest. I've never really had any luck with SoundQuest. It's just crappy code. That's all it really is. It works half the time or sometimes it doesn't work. But anyways, these guys are good. Totally worth it. Let's go ahead and go back into here and I'll show you. So we got this all connected and I'll show you that, I have it this way where I have my main MIDI interface, which is a PreSonus audio box. A great little box. It's about $80 to $100, depends on where you can find it on eBay. It's just one MIDI port and one MIDI port out. I have both connected, and I have videos that show how to connect the MIDI, actual MIDI, from an audio box or a different MIDI device, audio interface. Really easy. Now keep in mind, MIDI is just data. It's just control data. Audio has to be run separately. That's why I have a multi-mix 16 Firewire board that I can run various audio channels into, but it does not have MIDI, but I could still send that audio digitally into Logic. So that's what I'm doing. All right. All that stuff going on. I told you this is going to be advanced today. This is not for lighthearted. I mean, if you're in the basic realm, I'll help you. But this is for some advanced people. So moving on. And so this is how I have mine set up. And you can see where I put the network controller as the second option. It's almost like a through cable, a virtual through cable. And I just make sure I hit that activate. I'm going to go close that out. So here's where the real cool pudding is, or the real cool stuff is. Ta-da! Boom. Check that. Now, watch this. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but on my keyboard, so right now I'm on bank A. So if I go change right here, it changed it automatically. Boom. Ambient grand piano. Boom. And if I go ahead and play it, boom. The piano is something to be desired for, but it's all it is basically it's a crappy piano with lots of reverb. I don't really like the piano sounds from the Korg Karma. It's okay. But what I do like is this. This is really cool. Legato strings. Like this. That's nice. And I'm using this program. This is a remote desktop type of application. And we could go show inspector. And this is set up, I'm basically, I don't really care about the screen size. It's just, what you want to make sure that you do when you set this up is I try to use less resources as possible. So that's why none of this is checked except for maybe Windows theme. I could probably uncheck that too because I don't really need that. But the font type, I like that. But the main important thing is leave audio. You don't want to disable the audio because what I have is, for example, like sometimes what I will do is I will actually run a synth from here that's VST Windows only, and I'll pipe it back into my Alesis multi-mix, which is over here, which goes into Logic, and I'll sample that. So that's why I say leave audio, because I can control it I just don't want to screw with it. So that's why I leave it. So as you see, you put your IP address, you can save your password, blah, blah, blah. And this is just local network. This is, I just got a regular switch, Cat 5 cable, and I created my own little tiny network hub. It could be I don't think you would want to do this on a wireless network because you're not going to have the bandwidth to do it. You want to make sure you do this over a network that has a gigabit switch. Get yourself a gigabit switch. You'll be happy forever. If you have a 10 gigabit switch, then, just get the F out of here. Okay. Because I don't want to talk to you and I don't want you even just go away. All right. Whatever, 10 gigabits, whatever. All right. Ow, man, I just bumped my knee on my desk. Oh, that hurt. All right. So you can see how I have mine configured, and that's this right here. And this pops up like this. We have tons of sounds. Now, keep in mind that when you go through here, that if you want to go over to bank B and start messing with bank B, you have to go on your keyboard and you have to press bank B on the keyboard. It does not switch, does not know. Because like if I go over here and go octave strings, it doesn't move. But if I go down, but if I'm still on bank A and I go res down, say res down, you're not going to be able to see it because that camera that I have up there sucks and I don't have my other camera with me. So next video, I'm going to get a better camera so I can zoom down and I can show you what I'm seeing. But trust me, it says res down just like it does there. And if we play it, it sounds like a res down sound. Yeah. Round down sound. Yeah. All right. So now, if I want to go over bank B, I have to go over here and hit B. And then it'll automatically take me to the 00, which is the synth sweeper, which is that one. And then I'll go ahead and I'll hit, tone wheel or pad. I just click one time. I don't double click or anything. See the pad. Okay. Cool. This is awesome. Now, a lot of times, like if you're just getting into the new in this program, you will have, it won't show anything. It'll just say Korg Karma, whatever. What you want to do is just go into MIDI. You just do receive bank, whatever bank that you're working in. You can do all programs, but it'll take a while. Keep in mind, my bank or system of stuff is a little bit different because I actually loaded in some patches that supposedly are the same patches that were used by Enigma. They actually use this keyboard to create some of their sounds. Like here's one right here over in bank C. So let's make sure that I hit bank C and go voice Enigma. I'm not really sure what key they used to create that song, but I tell you what, it really sounds like it. Let's go up a little higher. There we go. That sounds... Let's see if let's go and take it like an E minor. No, D minor. Let's go A minor. That sounds nice. That sounds really nice. Wow. Okay. That being said, now get to the point of sampling here and how do you sample sounds? And all right, so what I was talking about is got to take the reverb off. And I don't like messing with this part. I think it's just, I can, I could look at it from here and I could see it, but sometimes it's hard to see. I like doing this. This is better. This is fun. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we take the sounds off? All right, so say like, this voice Enigma sound is really cool sound. I want to put it in my ESX. Did I say it right? EXS. There we go. I say ESX sometimes, but but it's EXS. And the reason why I get it mixed up is because I work IT and I work with another technology called ESXi, which is a type of server that's virtual, made by a company called VMware. Long story short, very similar to EXS. So I get the names mixed up. So bear with me there, okay? Cut me a freaking break, all right? I got so much stuff I got to keep in this head, and sometimes I can't contain it all. I can't remember, all right? Just freaking A. God. All right. Sampling. It's fun. There we go. All right. And we like it. It's nice. So how do we do it? Is we need to make sure that we can get MIDI that will trigger the notes. I know. So how do you do it? Well, it's pretty easy. On here, you just go external MIDI. See? You can see my output already goes to Network Karma. 1 is good because that's all I'm really using. 1, you got up to 16. You can do different MIDI channels and trigger different things, and I'll show you that later on. It's kind of some advanced, groovy, cool stuff, but you got to bear with me here. This stuff takes time to learn. You can't learn this crap overnight. You know, it took me 20 years almost to learn everything I know about MIDI and music. So, okay. Network Karma 1. And remember, I was telling you, I already set that all up in the RTP MIDI and the MIDI utility in El Capitan, because El Capitan's MIDI utility sucks worse than dog poo, okay? But we are able to hack it and fix it up by using a different MIDI utility app that I found that I hacked out of Mavericks. Now, what I will do, I don't know if it's allowed or not, but I will actually put the app that I use to fix this on a rapid share link or some kind of link out there, and I'll link it in there so that way if you run into the issue, because you're not going to find it anywhere, you're not going to find it in the Apple Store or the Apple forums, because those forum moderator a-holes are just going to laugh at you, and they're just going to say, well, you're just doing it wrong, and our system works totally fine, which is total BS, and they got so much stuff plugged up their buttholes that they can't see anything in the real light. Needless to say, let's move on. External MIDI, Network Karma. It already comes up default because that's the only thing I really have in my MIDI window. So that's what I named it. I named my session Karma 1, and it'll come up. You say Network Karma 1, and this is the MIDI channel. And that's all you need to do, and just hit create. And in here, just make sure when you go in here, click this little arrow, and just make sure your port reflects. See what it is. Sometimes that port will go away. Just want to make sure it is. Now, if you wanted to control your keyboard from Logic, you would just hit that program button. But I'm not controlling it. I'm actually controlling it from my other program, so I'm not checking that, okay? All right. Yeah, they're telling you this is some serious shit right here, so just bear with me. All right. So now is you can uncheck that R because you're not really recording any MIDI. As we need to create, you're going to like this. We need to create some notes. And what I like to do is usually I'll just create an empty MIDI region. You just start on, I actually like to start on C1 and just hold your little command button down and get the pencil up and just C1 if I could remember. See, it already triggered it. So you know that's working. And then I'll take it out 1 bar, a bar and a half is what I like to do, because it gives me enough space that I can actually loop it correctly when I go in the EXS24. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. That sounds cool. I like that sound. So, and then the other thing I like to do is I make sure my velocity is all the way up to 127. Because I'll control my velocity in EXS. So I just want full velocity, full tilt. And that's it. I just make sure enough space is right there. And then don't worry about the name, because I got a trick for how we do the names here. Just bear with me. All right. I'm full of tricks today. I'm releasing everything. All right. So then copy it out. You just pull this thing all the way out to as far as it goes, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And then we just hold the Alt key down. Just copy it over. And we just raise it up one. And then, so we don't have to hear it every time, we just uncheck this little green button. Now we don't have to listen to it. Just put up one. See, I'm going with that. And up one. And then we're going to go all the way up to C6, I believe. That's good enough. Yeah, you don't need anything more than that. From C1 to C6, that's all you need. Unless you're doing some weird bass lines or something like that and you need to go on the negative level. Like you're sampling some Bosendorfer piano, which goes in the negative. And that's a weird piano, I'll tell you what. It has extra notes, like 5 or 8 extra notes on the bass level. Weird. But then again, Bosendorfer piano, grand piano, $100 grand for one, something like that. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say no to one. But that's kind of cool, think about it. But extra octave, I think that's what it is. Anyways, you could do negative if you want to. I'm just doing C1 to C6. That's all I'm doing. That's all I need. And then let's go ahead. It's gonna go past that and just go up there. Boom. And I already made it for me. So now where are we at? We got C1 and what's this say? G3. So we still got a ways to go. Let's just go at halfway. Move that out. Over there. There we go. Now you notice, how do I zoom in and zoom out? Well, I hold the Shift and Alt key. I could do, and I use the scroll wheel on my mouse. I could do this. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Shift and Alt. And just Alt, just holding Alt, scroll, scroll, scroll. I could do that. And then Shift, scroll, 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 do that. So that's what I do. Love it. That's why I like Logic. Out of all the DAWs out there, they're the only one I know that allows me to do that with the Alt and Shift key. Ableton has sort of the same feature, but it doesn't do it with the mouse wheel, and you have to use the plus and minus keys, which is a little weird because it's on the other side of the keyboard. I don't like it. And Ableton's MIDI editor is not as good as Logic's. Logic, in my opinion, Logic has the best MIDI editor out there. And I do a lot of MIDI work. Probably most of my work is done in MIDI editing. All right, so where are we? We're at C#5. I believe. It freaked me out. I saw something in my peripheral. You're saying, well, how could you see something out of those things? Well, I just can. And there was a ghost that walked by me. Oh, it was a cat, and it just freaked me out. All right, so I think we got to do one more. No. Do. There we go. A5. We still got ways to go. All right, let's just bring a bunch more. I'm not counting. All right, there we go. G6, I just hold on it. Click and hold and tell me what value it is. All right, we're almost there. C6. That's the one we want. So the rest of these we could delete because I'm not using. There we go. Let's tidy up. Oh, crap. There we go. Scissors tool. There we go. All right. So we got our sample length. Now you're asking, all right, that's what we're going to use. We're going to go from C1 and we're going to sample it all the way up. And what we want to make sure is we have some space in between the notes. So when we go, I'll make sure all this crap is turned off. I want that on. Just, control click. Make sure that those are off. Just exactly my setup. Now BPM. Does that matter? No, it doesn't. Why? Well, the only time that BPM will matter if you're sampling is if the keyboard that you're sampling from has some kind of LFO function or envelope, mainly an LFO, that controls like a wobble or controls a velocity or controls a pitch or something like that, and it's based on the BPM. Then it would matter. Now, most of the time, what I do is if it does have that, I will actually disable that part in the keyboard and redo it in EXS. And it gets a little tricky sometimes because the LFOs or whatever that's doing the modulation, sometimes it's a little hidden somewhere in there. So it's just, you just got to know your keyboard well. So it does matter, but in the long short of things, no, it doesn't matter. So moving on. All right, we got all these notes and just got one long line. All right, so we don't have to look at this anymore. I'm gonna hit the P key to get out of it. So now, I was talking about space, the spacing in between the notes. Now, you saw that the reverb from the note just went and just dragged on. Now, check this out. We could increase the space of the notes, or we can fix it inside the keyboard here. And let me show you how I'm going to do that. Let's go ahead and just bring over. And if I can remember, it's in Korg. Chord. I'm using a Korg keyboard. I'm using a program called Chord. And I got Borg on my mind. I don't know. What is up with today? All right, moving on. All right, so we got this controller. So the voice of Enigma, we're on bank C, and we're able to control that. So let's go ahead, and then you see this little button right here. It says Edit. Let's go ahead and just press that. Boom. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So look here. The way the Korg Karma works is it gives you 2 sounds to layer for each program. And then you got combis where you can programs into one combination where you have layers upon layers. We'll get into more combis later, but for right now, I kind of like this sound and I just want it. So it has oscillators, but what they are is they're just, you would think of them as ROM sounds sampled from something else. So you got synth air, vox rev, and you got voice choir rev. Now look here, it says piano on one layer, but see that's part of the split. And it's weird because the split is controlled by this velocity thing right here. And you could control it, and it gets a little goofy, and I don't like it. I wish they had a better way to control their splits, but so ignore this lower sound, and you can see your mixer right here, which has a lower sound. Now, what I want to show you is what we did to disable the reverb. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to disable the reverb. See right here? Right there. It comes up. You can click on that, but we just highlight on the green, disabled. Now, if we play it, reverb should be gone. But there's a delay. So let's go ahead and see if we can find that delay. Where's that delay at? Is there like a oh, there it is. Stereo modulation delay. There we go. There it is. Modulation delay. That is. All right, so make sure that's disabled. Now let's see if we can. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to fix the main ADSR. And the ADSR in the Korg Karma is a little weird, so I believe we go into the amp. There it is. Right here. It's the amp EG envelope. And it's got all this crap here and this crap here. And I mean, the amp, their ADSR in the Korg Karma is actually phenomenal. I mean, you can do some really cool stuff. But the main thing that I want to do is I want to take off the release. Because I'm going to control the release in the EXS. So I believe if we just do this, maybe just have like a tiny bit of release. See what that does. There we go. All right, and then the other thing I want to do is I want to, in order for me to create a good loop sampled in the EXS24, I don't want such a long attack. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the attack off. So we'll just go ahead and just grab it right here. Just bring it up. Bring this over here. It looks like it has like an attack decay. So I'm going to just maybe just give it a little bit of something. And let's see what it sounds like now. All right, so you're hearing that there's some movement going on in the sound as the longer I hold down the key. So I like that movement, and it seems like it's like a movement that goes over time, and it's probably controlled by another setting in there in the filter settings. And for the intents and purposes of this tutorial, I just want to work on the ADSR right now, and we could. You know, we could do multiple samples if we wanted to, where we could have samples with that extra movement sound, and we could go into that later on. But I think right now we're just going to focus on that. And what I'll do is I'll take my MIDI and I'll just increase it a little bit longer, maybe like 2 bars, 2.5 bars, or 3 bars. So that way, when I can have a really nice pad sound. So let's go ahead and maybe tweak this up a little bit more, and let's go like something like that. And so yeah, let's see what that sounds like. Nice. 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 All right. So you saw how that I fixed the ADSR in this Korg Karma, because when we sample it, we're going to control the ADSR in the EXS24, like I said earlier. But I just want to point that out. That's important in order to have a really good sample. Is you want that ADSR to, you just want it just short, and when we're, you could probably, I think right now the way it's good is just instant on, instant off, because when you make the loops and you loop it inside the EXS24 and you have a long attack and then you have a long reverb, it doesn't loop well. And it just messes things up. So this is why I'm doing this first. This is how you prep your sample. Okay, so we got all that done. Now the stereographic equalizer. This is, I say this is up to preference. Sometimes I like this on there because their graphic EQ is actually really decent. Almost, I would say, a little bit better than Logic has. And what's the word I'm looking for? the technology or whatever they're using inside here to do the EQ, I cannot replicate it in Logic. It's very hard for me to replicate. I could probably do like some EQ matching that Logic does, but most of the time I like the way it is. I don't even mess with it. But we go ahead and just click on it. Let me show you. This is what it looks like. It has different settings. You got different types. You got wide 1, wide 2, wide 3, you know, and half wide. And then you got the different bands. And, you know, this is good. I like that. You know, I'm not going to mess with it. You know, you got different effects, but the stereography EQ is pretty good. So I leave it alone. So I think we're good to go. Also, we want to make sure is make sure that our latch, and there's another thing that there's like a on-off button for, it basically engages the ARC mode for the Korg Karma. And I just want to make sure those are off because you don't want the MIDI get all carried away and run amok everywhere. So just make those two things are turned off. I actually have a setting in here. I actually had them disabled so to begin with, so I don't really have to worry about them in the global mode. And I can show you how to do that later on. You know, but I'm gonna need at least 100 likes on this video before I start telling some more stuff about this. But then again, yeah, maybe I might be in a good mood. All right, so we are done with this, and so what we could do is we could actually, I'll pull this off to the side, and if we go ahead and do a test run, start off with number 9 and see if we can see how that sounds. All right, so it's a little too fast. And what we could do is maybe we need to stretch these guys out. So I know I'm going to have to redo this whole thing. So we need these things. Now, a lot of times people will do is they'll skip like every 5th note. I don't like doing that. I don't feel like you really get the truest form of a sampled sound when you do that. Here's why. When you tune a piano, every other note, every 5th note is slightly off by a certain amount. And it has to be that way in order to play the whole sound. Now, does that apply to, so like a pad sound? Not really. But I noticed like if I'm changing velocities and I'm messing with the LFO, or if I'm tweaking the resonance, or if I'm doing some advanced trickery with the pitching, I do notice it. I do notice some artifacts in the sound if I skip notes in my samples. So that's why I don't do it. Bring this out as far as we can go. Look at that. Yay! It's going. There we go. That should be enough. Now, this is going to take a while to sample. So what I'll do is I will actually stop the video or just forward it. So that way you don't have to wait for me to sample all this, but play it from here and see if there's enough space in between and if it gives that extra sound that we're hearing when we hold it down longer. We're still going to need to do it a little bit longer, and I didn't really like the sound of it when I had the BPM at 90. I'm going to keep it 120. And I should have tested out first. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm just not thinking clearly, but oh well. You know, it's forgiving. Okay, So I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're just going to do 8 bars for each sound. You heard that pitching. And it's a long ass pitch, but you know, for the sake of tutorial, I should have picked a different sound, but we're stuck with it. I didn't realize that pitching would go so far. But I wanted to capture that whole pitch sound. Interesting. Yeah, so it's like 8 bars, something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, and you notice I lowered the BPMs a little bit, so hopefully it captured it. By default, I believe all the sounds are set at 120 on the Korg Karma, so that's why I keep it at 120. But maybe this will help me. So let's go back over to C1. And I'll forward this part so you don't have to watch me build it all over again. And then we'll skip 2 bars. That's good enough. All right. So now, let's just double check everything. Make sure everything looks good. We're not missing a note. Yeah. It looks good. It's going up. It's important that you don't miss any notes because it's going to get our number sequence out of order when we batch rename these things. And I got a really cool way on how to rename these things. Normally it doesn't take me this long to do it, but this sample is so freaking weird long, but I wanted to sample it anyway, so. All right. All right, so I think it's good. Guess time will tell if we did this right. Let's sample it. Okay, so let's go ahead and we make sure our R is checked. And let me show you a trick. Go File, Preferences, or Logic Preferences, Audio, something like that. Put it over here. Make sure that when your processing threads are 8, they give you more processing power. Yeah, under General, there is a setting, Independent Monitoring Level for all Recorded Enabled channels. Check that and uncheck the other one. So that way, if you just want to monitor something and you don't want to record it, you can just hit the little I and you can listen to it. You don't have to have the R enabled. But if you want to sample this, make sure your R is enabled because it won't record it. That's all. Hit the record button up here or the key command R. Make sure that your volume is up. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually put in a limiter. There we go. And then also on the input that's coming out of my Korg keyboard into my Alesis, I want to make sure that my volume is almost up all the way. And then the other thing I want to do is the volume on my keyboard. I have a volume button on the Korg Karma. I want to make sure that that is not all up full way, but maybe around 90%. And then I make sure that my volume on my Alesis mixer that it's coming into, which is then going to Logic, is at around 90%. And then let's go ahead and because I want full volume when I sample this. All right, now let's hit the command R to record it. Let's go out a little bit. I feel like it didn't give me any leeway. Make sure nothing else is checked with an R. It's only this one. For some reason, that one is. It's okay. All right. Now we hit the R command. Oh, that sounds cool. perfect. You saw how it had that space of quiet. It's gonna be good. This will come out really well. So that took a long freaking while. You can see this is started. It was like over 25 minutes long. We got 0, 0, so discount the 1, but you can see that it's almost 25 minutes long. Is that how long it took? Normally, this doesn't happen like this. For pad sounds, I wanted to get an 8-bar long loop because I want to make this really cool pad, and I just wanted a really long length to my loop. But normally when I do a sample, it's only 1.5 bars long. But anyways, I just want to, and I'll probably do a different loop, and I'll show you. But we got that going. Good. So now the next step that we want to do is we need to break apart these samples. And this is where it gets really easy. So we'll just go in and zoom in here real quick. And you can see how I got spaces in here. Is all you have to do is you just control click on the audio file or right click, depends on how you have your mouse set up in the Mac. And down in here, there it is. It's under split. And inside split, you'll see it says strip silence, or it could be key command control X. That's the one you want. So we'll just go ahead and just pick that. I already used it before, so I'll just pick it from the top. It'll come up with this menu like here. And I've messed with these settings a lot. In here, the threshold, I don't really mess with that much, but I just set it around 4%. But what I really do is I like to set my minimum time to accept the silence about less than like 0.1. And then a pre-attack time, this is like the time before it senses. So it gives me like a little tiny bit of space before that note hits. And that's what the pre-attack times. And I set it like super, super low. You can see it like it's within the thousandths of a millisecond. But I just want to give it like a little tiny bit of space. That's what I'm using with the pre-attack. Post-release time, I really don't use anything with post-release time because I got the space here. But I could probably maybe move that up, 1 or 2, something like that. And if we look at it, after we do 63 regions, let's see if we can hit OK. See now, look at that. Doo-doo-doo. And if we zoom in real close, I'll show you. See, here's the pre-attack time. Look at that, all that space right there. The threshold is, All right, the best way I can explain threshold is just to show you. Here, I would just do Command Z. There was some funkiness going on there, anyways, because I have to redo it anyways. So look at when we do strip silence. If we had like a really high threshold, say like we put it like, see, that's what the threshold does. It doesn't even sense anything. When you have a high threshold, it's not going to sense any silence. It's just going to just jack it all up. So you want to keep your threshold really low. But if you keep it too low, it's going to cut into spaces where it doesn't really need to cut in. So I tend to keep it around 4% is what I find to get it. Like right here, it seems like it's made a double cut right here for some reason. 4, and then let's take it out one more. See, there we go. And it looks like it cut in there. Let's do one more bit of threshold. There we go. That looks good. They're around 2%. That should work. So that's just something you got to play with. You could see what you want to do is you want the strip silence where it doesn't cut into things that you could eventually fix it by re-editing it. But I don't want to do that. I just want to make it one step, and that's it. One shot, one kill, dude. That's all I want. So I want to be effing with it afterwards. All right. So then the minimum time to silence. Yeah, we could bump that up a little bit, because that's also affects your threshold. So we could say, we could put it under like 2/100ths of a second, something like that. But I want to keep it a little bit lower because I want a little bit more of a space in between the two. So it helps. Pre-attack time, I already showed you what that was. And that's good enough right there. Now let's see what it looks like now. Let's go ahead and okay. There we go. And let's just pick any sample. See, here we go here. All nice and smooth. Go in here. See how we got this little bit of a space afterwards. That's our post-attack time. We could shorten that up if we wanted to. But I think it's good right there. And there's no double cuts. Really good. So now here's where the fun begins. Just go over here. You could pick either one. It doesn't matter. I always pick the second one. Do text tool. And then I hit my command key. It comes up as the text editor. And I just put the number 1 at the very first one. Hit enter. It goes da 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 da. Like that. And look at that. It counted up and it gave me 61. I for some reason I was saying 49 earlier, but that's not right. 61 notes. So we're going from C1. So if we go, let's just double check our notes. We're going C1 all the way up, and let's just, and 61 notes selected. So that's good. So we know we have 61 notes. Let's get out of that. 61. Now here's the cool part. Just do this. Now if you bounce it out, it's just going to bounce out as one file. So you don't want to bounce it out. And you don't want to render each one. You do like command click B and 1 BIP 2. You don't want that. Here's what you do. Highlight the whole thing. And then control click on it, since it's all highlighted. And we're going to go convert. I'm going to go convert to new audio files. Don't pick regions, because that's just going to make it one long ass region. You want new audio files. Now, let me show you something. What you can do is you can go in here, and if you need to edit these, sometimes I like to do it, but I usually take care of the EXS. But if for some reason you want to go in here and you want to click the fade ins and the fade outs, see, like if I want to mess with the fade outs, I could do it for all of them. See, but it's such a long sample. You're gonna have to get like really high. You can see a little bit of fade out going right there, but it does it for all of them. And we could even put a curve to it, if you you do a minus, you do like a minus, it only goes up to 99, so we do like minus 50. Make the curve that go the right way. If you want positive, it'd bend down, so we don't want that. So you can do that if you wanted to. You can also do a fade in as well. Oops. There we go. All right, but I don't care. Now, let's go back to what we're doing. I'll show you this. Convert to new audio files. There it is. Boom. Oh, just wait. It'll pop up with this thing. And then, since this is a new project, it's untitled. I just started a new project, but usually I save my samples in the project folder that I'm working on. I actually have a set folder where I just do all my sampling in. But for some reason, it's a little different today. So what I do is it'll basically prompt me saving the audio files. I don't really like it in the audio files, but what I like to do is I like to create a folder. Saving by package. I actually like to create a folder. It's called samples. Matter of fact, before we do this, I want to show you something. File, save as, sampling project. Just call it sampling dude. There we go. And what I want is I want to save it as a folder, not package, because usually when you have a package, you can't see what's inside of it. You got to right click or control click and say show package contents. And it's hard to see. I always save it as folder. Folder's easier. It gives you everything up front and easy to see. So I don't know why they did that. It's just confusing. So someone else out there smarter than me and wants to, anyways, tell me whatever. El Capitan. All right, here we go. So now, since I saved it as a project folder, there should be a folder there called samples already. So we'll just do convert to new audio files. There it is, samples. So I already have one in there that I did earlier that it just copied over. So now I'm going to name this. What were we using before? What was the name of our sound that we used before? I believe it's called Voice of Enigma. There it is, Voice of Enigma. So we'll just call this Enigma Pad. That's a good name for it. Enigma Pad. Enter. Great. And then we'll just save it in there. So it saves all these files, all 61 of them. Okay. And then it'll redo all these files and put them, and I don't want to wait for it, so I just delete it. And then we could go in here and it'll see that it's in here now. What we could do is we could leave the untitled one because that's our master main one in case we have to go back and redo it. But we could just delete all these. We don't need those. Don't cloud up your project folder with stuff that you don't need. Just delete it so you can remember it. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to go to the project folder. Oh, nice, pretty background. All right, so we just go file, new Finder window. And we'll go into my project folder, which is it's usually in here, it's in music. Come on, Logic. And it's Sampling Dude. That's the one I've made. All right, so here we go. You can see that I already have a sampling instrument in there called Pong Pluck, which I made earlier. And here's the samples for it, Pong Pluck, right there. You can see that. All right. Now, if I remember correctly. Oh, I went to C5 last time. That's why I was saying 49. Okay, I remember why. So we went to C6. Yeah, 49. All right, so here it is. 1, 2, blah, 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 blah. Now, how do we rename it? See, what we have to do is we have to rename each number to a corresponding key on the piano, or it's not going to import correctly into your sampler. So there's a trick that I learned, and it's just night and day. It's so easy. You don't have to go in there and rename them all, and by the time you're done, you have arthritis. Screw that, When you can automate it, So there's a program called Name Changer. Let's bring it up. I'll show you the web page for it. Here it is. This is what it looks like. You can download it. It's free, very easy, and very cool. But what's neat about this app is it has the ability to use text files. So I'll show you. Let's go in here. Let's open it up. I downloaded it, installed it. If you don't know how to install a Mac app, you should not be watching this tutorial. Let's put it that way. So it's open. We got it. Great. Now, let's go ahead and let's just open up a regular text file. I have mine that's already created, saved to the desktop. Bring it over. Where is it at? There it is. It's this one. I created a new text file. It's just, you just go, file, and you go open up your text edit and you do new. But what I like to do, I make sure when I do text edit, is when I save it, here, look. You open a new text edit and it comes up with this standard default thing. Make sure that you go in here and you click format and hit make plain text. And it should be that. Look like that. You don't want the other one because it's not going to work. Just so FYI, make plain text. All right, so as I did that, now here's the trick. Look at this. Minus C1 dash AIF. Minus C sharp 1 dash dot AIF. Minus C1 dot AIF. Minus C sharp 1 dot AIF. Now keep in mind, the EXS24 does not allow flats. You cannot be flat. I'm sorry. If you just, it won't work. If you're flat, then just, go home. But if you're sharp, we'll accept you. Yes, because you're sharp. But if you're flat, no way. It just doesn't work. Anyhow, so right now I have 49 notes because normally I've been going to minus, C5. So we need to, what I will do is I will copy, and then I'll just change my 4 to 5. 5. Oh, I added an extra one. Has to be just right. 5. 5. And just hear the down arrow. Delete 5. Down arrow. Oops. Get a little happy with my typing here. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. And we need one more, which is the C6. Let's go ahead and make that C6. So, look at this. So in there should be 69 lines. You can use a cool text editor like Sublime, or there's another text editor out there called, what was it, Notepad, Note++, or something like that. Text Wrangler. That's a good one. And what's cool about it is it'll actually give you the numbers. But right now, I know there's 60, whatever it is. It looks right to me, so I think it should be okay. So we'll find out one way or the other if we did this right. I think it'll be all right. So So then we just go ahead and save it. It automatically saved. Or did it? Yeah. So now we have this name changer up here. And we could just drop in. Just Command A, Command C. Or just drop and drag in here. All right. Cool. Now what? Yeah, hold on here. Go here where it says, we just click this right here. Go down here and do sequence. This is what we're going to do. Now, look, it'll just give you what it's going to rename it to, but we want something a little bit better. The next thing we want to do is, do you see that? I'll show you. Click this little icon thing right here, and we're going to pick that thing. I saved it as notes. You can save it whatever you want, but just remember where you saved it at and what you named it as. And I just named it notes. Open. See, look at that. Boom. Look at that. So, but look, my name is all messed up. It's putting it before. I don't want that. All right. Well, look here. It says before digits. What we want to do is after digits. Look at that. Ooh. Whoa. That's smooth right there. Look at that. See, 0, 1, see, blah, 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 blah. All the way up to C, 61. So look at that. And that will work. That will import into EXS24 and give you the correct note value. That's what we want. Perfect. So we just go up here and say rename. Boom. Done. That's it. You're done. And I'll put it in red saying it's done. So we can close that out. We're done. And look, the Enigma pad, it's already renamed. Look, with all the correct numbers and the correct note values. That is so freaking cool. That was easy. All right. So now let's go, I had logic minimized, so let's go ahead and put it back. And what we want to do now is we just create a new EXS24 instrument. So software, and you can select it in here. Make sure it's like stereo, unless you're doing mono for some weird reason, but okay, then you have mono, okay? Just create, and then bring this bad boy up here. And let's do edit. And then go over here to zone. Load multiple samples. If you didn't see that, let's just go over it one more time. Let me show you. Go edit. Comes with the blank thing. Go to zone. Load multiple samples. And by default, for some reason, EXS24 is pretty darn smart. It actually knows what sample that you're working at. And it automatically picked the folder for me. But if it doesn't, for some weird reason, you just make sure you go back to that folder that you created, Enigma pad or whatever that you created. And I just do add all. I don't even, you could play each one or whatever. I don't even mess with that. So we know it's all right. Looks good. So then we just hit done. Now it's going to come with this thing. Do not do any of this stuff except for this one right up here. Auto map by reading the root key from the audio file. Hey. That's why that was so important that we had to rename them. So let's go hit OK. And boom. Look at that. Starts off with C1. And then how do you spot check this? How do you know that this will be good? How do you know that these notes come up good? Well, we could take let's see if we can find it. Put in an effect or a utility tool. Oh, metering. Yeah, it's a metering tuner. And if we go ahead and just hit the C4 key or the C3 key, it should be C3. See? Very good. All right. Very good. And if we go up here to the A key, it should be an A4. Good. We just double check it. C, G, G sharp, C6, D. We did A already. E. So that's good. We know that that's working, and all our notes are corresponding with what we record them as. And it's nice and smooth. And this is how you do it. The number value is important because it gives you an idea to a sequence to match up the numbers with the note values. In your text file, you could probably create it in some other weird way if you wanted to do like a name exactly. Like if you had like mic positions, you could do a mic position, like mic position 1, mic position 2, but just still keep that number in there so that way you can sequence in the correct note values per number. Because the Renamer program is very versatile and very flexible, so it works with pretty much any way that you want to do it. I'm just showing you just a simple way of doing it. So now, before we close this thing out, we need to work on how are we going to get this thing to loop. You know, do we really need it to loop? Not really, because it's like 8 bars long. I mean, that's why I kind of recorded it so long. But if we're say like for some reason we're doing some really weird Brian Eno ambient piece and we just needed to like loop for like 30 minutes long or something. Okay, all right, fine. All right, you win that argument, okay? So let's just move this over on the side here. I'm not going to close it down, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another note somewhere in here. Just create an empty MIDI region and bring it all the way down here. Bring it past my loop point. So it's going to be like something like that. But we just want to make sure that it's going to loop right. And then we'll just put on, you know, key of A, because for some reason I feel like A, or we do D minor or something. I don't care. Whatever, or it doesn't matter. And check that. Let's move that over here. Q to. Oh, it's not. There we go. Let's extend it out. Very good. So what I've done here is I've created just a test note to make sure my looping's working. Something like that. So then we'll just bring over my guy over here and check this out. Go over here to View, Zone Loop. Go in here, do Command A, just click anywhere in there and then do Command A. And then hit the loop on. Now, this does by sample numbers, which is kind of goofy, and there's no real way to see, you know, where it's looping at and where it's starting. But what I've noticed is it's just a trial and error kind of deal. But if you start off with like, you know, it goes to 85, 2, 4, 9, 2, you know, samples. So what we want to do is, you know, maybe start off with like, maybe a little less. Maybe we could start off with 10,000. All right, just somewhere, you know, we just want to pick a loop point where we're starting it at this point, which is, all right, say like the beginning of the file is like right here. This is the start of the file. And what we're doing is we're just moving our samples, our loop start point a little bit further from the beginning of the file. Now, what's cool is since I've created the file, sampled the file with hardly any attack, where it's like a very short attack and a very short release, it's made the file square, and it makes it really nice to do loops on, because, you know, we could start it at the very beginning of the file, and you're not going to get this weird dip when we loop it. But I still like to space out further from the file. So, you know, we could just play with that. And then our end point, since the file ends at around 85 something, and it varies, you know, 86, 85, 100, you know, 1,000 or whatever number that is, we could do, let's just change that number to 7. All right. And then let's go ahead and change our crossfade. It all goes up to 10,000, so I'm not really sure it's going to really matter that much on such a long sample like this. But we'll just give it all it can go. Yeah, 99999. All right. And then the E power, it's an algorithm that increases the volume supposedly when it crossfades. But on some samples it works, and some samples it just really messes things up. So we could just go ahead and enable it. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull that over on the side, and let's test it and see what it sounds like. Because what we're looking for is how does it sound as it passes this point right here and continues on. So let's give it a listen. All right, here we go. Oh, let's go ahead and mute that part. Here we go. All right, so there's a little bit of something when it loops. Just like you can hear a little bit of a cut. So we need to just play with a little bit more. So we'll just go back in here and hit A, Command A, and then let's change our all right, that's perfect right there. So each sample sometimes can be very difficult and challenging to find the right loop point. A lot of times you may think, all right, this loop point's going to work here, but then when you listen to it, it just doesn't sound right. So the loop point that I found on this sample, you know, I'm starting very late, and then I'm also, you know, ending very late, almost at the very end of the file, because it goes like 86 something something. And then at crossfade, you know, I gave it as long as I could. You know, we're limited by the amount of crossfade that we can have, which just kind of sucks because this sample's like so long and we needed a longer crossfade. I took off the E power. I didn't feel like I needed that. It was amping it up too much and I just didn't like it. So this is what I have for it. So I really like the samples, the loop point that I made for it. So I think it's going to work really well. And then if we go ahead and just close this out and it'll ask you to save, I'm going to hit save, and then we said Enigma pad, so we're going to go ahead and rename it Enigma pad. You can name it whatever. Enigma pad. There we go. Great. So now I'm going to, you know, I'll just put this off on the side because I'll probably go back and using this template again for my samples. But if we go over here, let's go ahead and name this Enig. Why did it come up with that? I have no idea. I must have double clicked on something. Pad. You could assign the controls to it. All right, let's go ahead and open it up. Now, let's go ahead and let's fix some of the attack decay release. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just zero everything out down here, and then we'll make sure this is turned on. The fat and all that, I always have it set default, but I just make sure this is on because I'm going to go in here and mess with the cutoff stuff. And the cool thing is now, like if we play it right now, it's got a short attack, so what we could do is, why is it? Oh, make sure that's mute. All those other ones are mute, so I don't hear it. Oh. There we go. It was, I had my other thing in there that was, for some reason, my other sound was being leaked through on my keyboard. All right, so go ahead and just zero everything out. Make sure this is enabled, this is on. You can leave everything else as default, and you shouldn't really hear anything. See, nothing. So what we want to do now is we want to, we're going to have a full sustain. This is a pad. And then, a nice long attack and a nice long release. So it should sound pretty good. Now let's go ahead and increase that attack a little bit more. So it's just such a long sample, we're probably going to have to really amp things up. There we go. That's a good attack. So far it sounds pretty decent. It sounds pretty good. I like it. We can even do some cool things like maybe put an LFO on it and set, filter cutoff, this thing right here, maybe put it halfway and put LFO 2, set it for LFO 2, this one right here, and just maybe give it a nice sync rate of 2 bars, maybe even something even longer. We could do like 3 bars. And then we just give it like maybe 30%. See what it sounds like now. Now, the other thing that we noticed that I took off on the pad before I sampled it was it had a modulation delay of some sort, and we can reconstitute it over here. We can go and we just put this right here, modulation delay. And we can just use the default one. I think the default one sounds pretty good. And let's just see what it sounds like. Now, if you don't really like the sound of the modulation delay, where it's got a little too much modulation, which I'm noticing, you could change the output mix, or you can change the mod intensity. So like we can put this down to like, 14%, and then we can change the output mix to maybe something like 15%. So that way it's not so overpowering. All right, that sounds pretty cool. Now, the next thing we need a reverb. And what I've like to do is I just like to bus out my stuff. I've already created a bus, and just go bus 1. And on this bus, I have let's go ahead and just minimize this. I'll show you something. I have a setting in here. You just go, file, you just save preset as. Save channel strip setting as. And I did that earlier, and what I have here is I have this reverb from Logic setting called Bright Hall. And you can find it in the large spaces, and it's under halls, and it's bright, number 3 second long, bright hall. I like it. It's a nice sounding reverb. And what I do is I just jack up that and take the dry all the way down. And then I put a channel EQ on the reverb, just jack up the frequencies, pretty high on certain things. And I cut out, just do hard cuts on the left and the right. This is reverb that I'm messing with, not the actual instrument. So then I've noticed that when you do it that way, sometimes you may need a limiter, depends on, because what it does is actually amplifies things, but it just depends. Then you notice that when you EQ your reverbs, it really gives it an element of almost, in a sense, especially Logic's reverbs. I would say, in my honest opinion, it's almost near competitive to some of the higher paid plugins that you would find, like the $1,000 reverbs that you'd see that's sampling reverbs that that they use. Not to say that it would compete, but just saying it might give it a run for its money because it's free, especially after you just tweak it and put all that on there. So let's go ahead and just put a little bit of reverb on our bus, and let's go ahead and just play it and see what it sounds like now. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Very nice. It's giving me goosebumps. All right, so you can see the power in music, especially in sampling. We could probably set our voice level all the way up to like 32, probably give us a better response. It goes up to 64, but I find that if we set around 32, it'll give you a better sound. And make sure it's poly. We did all this stuff, and we got a really nice ambient sounding pad. And all we did is we probably spent maybe less than 30 minutes just sampling from that. And now we got something that we could keep, have in our arsenal of tools, and we can use for any kind of mix project out there. And a lot of times I'll find something, I'll just mix it. And you don't have to go so high. Like I went all the way up C6. You can just go to C5. It doesn't matter. But I wanted the higher register because on a pad sound, you really need that higher register. It really helps. I think that's all I have for today. I'm going to go ahead and end with that. And thank you guys for supporting me. And please give me a like, subscribe, and comment below if I can help you with anything. I hope that this will help you, inspire you to do great things in music. Sampling is almost a lost art that I say has been kind of forgotten. It used to be really crazy in the day. People would sample off of records. And now since everybody has YouTube, you don't really do it as much anymore. But I feel like if we could just get back into show you how easy sampling could be and how powerful it could be and how you can harness the sound and change it into something. I love doing this. This is my favorite thing. I love taking sounds from an old keyboard and just harnessing it and just making something great out of it. Then again, it's all about just having fun and just listening to some cool sounds. So remember, my friends, stay groovy. Cheers. Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up and share it on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. If you'd like to see more videos like this, just click on the big red subscribe button below. And when I upload a video, you'll be the first one to see it. Also, if you did like this video, maybe you will like some more of my other videos. You can watch those right now just by clicking on any of these links right here, which will open up a link in a new tab. Again, thanks for watching my video and supporting this channel. And remember, my friends, stay groovy.